Mass media reporters aren't buying Israel's hospital bombing story. A huge blast in Gaza has destroyed the Al Ali Arab hospital, killing hundreds of people. The exact death toll is still unknown. Details of who is responsible for the explosion are being hotly debated by all parties, and this is still a developing story with a lot of details yet to be revealed. But what I'd like to quickly document as things unfold is the highly unusual number of mass media reporters I've been seeing who haven't hesitated to point to Israel as the probable culprit. After noting that Israel is blaming the blast on a failed rocket launch by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, MSNBC foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez quickly pointed out that PIJ rockets don't tend to do that kind of damage, but Israeli missiles do. He also noted that Israel has an extensive history of lying about this sort of thing. The Israeli military at this point is not providing any evidence to back up its claims that this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. They are citing intelligence that they have not yet made public, Sanchez said. We should also say that this kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets. These rockets are dangerous, they are deadly, they do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike in the way that Israeli high explosives, especially these bunker buster bombs that are used to target these Hamas tunnels under Gaza City, do have the ability to kill hundreds of people. And we should say, finally, that there are instances in the past where the Israeli military has said things in the immediate aftermath of an incident that have turned out not to be true in the long run, Sanchez added. And the one example I'll give you is that when the Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was killed in the occupied West Bank, the Israeli military initially said she was killed by Palestinian gunmen, and it was only months and months later that they admitted that it was likely an Israeli soldier who fired the fatal shot. CNN's Clarissa Ward said essentially the same thing. I will say, just based on seeing these rocket attacks many times over the years, that they don't usually have an impact like that in terms of the size of the blast, in terms of the scale of the death toll and the scale of the damage, Ward said. It's also not the first time, it's important to add, that we have seen the IDF categorically deny something before being forced to kind of do an about face after an extensive investigation. BBC foreign correspondent John Donison gave basically the same opinion. It's hard to see what else this could be, really, given the size of the explosion, other than an Israeli airstrike or several airstrikes, Donison said from Jerusalem. Because, when we've seen rockets being fired out of Gaza, we never see explosions of that scale. We might see half a dozen, maybe a few more people being killed in such rocket attacks, but we've never seen anything on the scale of the sort of explosion on the video I watched earlier. That's 3 mass media reporters that I've just seen in my random information gathering meanderings, not on their personal social media accounts, but live on air. It's highly unusual to see this degree of skepticism in the Western press right off the bat when it goes against the information interests of Israel specifically or the US power alliance more generally. Typically, we've been seeing the media uncritically report unverified claims about Palestinian militants while expressing rigorous skepticism solely toward any information which might benefit the Palestinian resistance. So there's clearly something about this particular story which makes mass media reporters remarkably reluctant to push the Israeli narrative. Maybe they're getting information in their group chats, which has caused them to keep Israel's claims about the hospital bombing at arm's length. Or maybe they're just looking at the facts and deciding this narrative is too flimsy to get behind. If it looks like Israel's version of events will fall apart after investigation, they're not going to want to stake their reputation and their pride on pushing it with their usual gusto during an Israeli military operation that is facing unusually intense scrutiny from the entire world. Israel does, after all, have an extensive history of attacking hospitals and healthcare facilities, including in this current operation in Gaza, including apparently bombing this exact same hospital just a few days ago. ReliefWeb, which is run by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, recently published a report on the numerous Israeli strikes that have hit hospitals, ambulances, and healthcare workers between October 12th and October 15th, and listed among the hospitals hit the Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza City, the same hospital that was just destroyed a few days later. Citing Al Jazeera V and Personal Communication, Relief Web reports the following, quote, 14 October 2023. In Gaza City and Governorate, Ali Arab Hospital was hit by Israeli airstrikes, partially damaging 2 floors and damaging the ultrasound and mammography room. 4 people were injured. End quote. It's also probably worth noting that according to the World Health Organization, this hospital was one of the 20 hospitals which the IDF had ordered to evacuate because of the aggression.
The forces of civilization will prevail for our sake, for your sake, for peace and security in our region and in the world. Mr. President, for the people of Israel, there's only one thing better than having a true friend like you standing with Israel, and that is having you standing in Israel. Your visit here is the first visit of an American president in Israel at a time of war. It is deeply, deeply moving. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to Israel. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to the future of the Jewish people and the one and only Jewish state. So I know I speak for all the people of Israel when I say, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for standing with Israel today, tomorrow, and always.
That happened in the past hour, and a lot has happened in the past 24 hours. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu showing appreciation for President Biden's visit amid the country's war with Hamas. That meeting happening just moments ago, kicking off an extremely busy day for the president in Israel, navigating a lot of moving parts and questions this morning. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Wednesday, October 18th. With us, we have the host of Way Too Early, White House Bureau Chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, and U.S. Special Correspondent for BBC News, Katty Kay. We'll dive right in. Less than 2 weeks after Hamas terror attacks sent Israel into a new war, President Biden is in the country today to show support for America's Middle Eastern ally. The president is meeting, as you saw, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu right now after arriving in Tel Aviv about 2 hours ago. In brief remarks to reporters before going behind closed doors, Netanyahu thanked Biden profusely for his steadfast support for Israel. Biden then reaffirmed his commitment to Israel's safety while also stressing the need to address the growing humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza. The situation there worsened last night when a deadly blast at a Gaza City hospital killed more than 200 people. Israel and Palestinian officials are both blaming each other for the violence, which spurred pro-Palestinian protests in parts of the West Bank, Lebanon, Turkey, and Jordan last night. That blast also forced changes to Biden's schedule. Just as he was departing for Israel yesterday, the King of Jordan canceled a planned summit between himself, Biden, and the Palestinian president and the president of Egypt. In a statement, Jordan's foreign minister wrote, quote, a summit would not be able to stop the war now. More now on the explosion at a Gaza hospital that killed hundreds of people. It happened in Gaza City in the northern part of the territory, placed under an evacuation order by Israel last week. Hamas, which launched terrorist attacks that set off the war, immediately blamed Israel for the attack. Israel says the explosion was caused by a misfired rocket launched by another terrorist group known as Islamic Jihad. Prior to departing for Israel, President Biden directed his national security team to continue gathering evidence about what exactly happened. Biden then addressed the deadly blast shortly after arriving this morning. Listen.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not not you, but there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
Navigating a lot of things. Meanwhile, Israel's defense forces overnight shared video on social media claiming it was proof that the explosion was caused by a failed rocket launched by Islamic Jihad. Jonathan Lemire, let's talk about what the White House is doing right now and how they responded to this hospital attack and how it impacted the trip. Was there a moment where they thought perhaps it wouldn't be wheels up? And what do you make of how the president is navigating this right in front of Benjamin Netanyahu, not being completely sure exactly what happened?
Yeah, this explosion, of course, is now shadowing this entire trip, changed its trajectory remarkably. The president was in the motorcade just a few minutes from Joint Base Andrews yesterday afternoon, about to go wheels up when word came from Jordan that this summit was canceled. A summit the White House had really wanted to make a key part of this trip, to talk to these Arab leaders about the need to help with the situation in Gaza, perhaps to accept refugees, create that corridor with Egypt to let people get out. And suddenly, it was off. And White House aides I speak to say that they never wavered on going with this trip, but certainly a trip that was sort of fraught from the beginning. The president heading into a war zone, real security concerns there, one who has already showed such support for Israel. There was a sense that maybe he was being pushed into this visit by the prime minister, Netanyahu. But we heard from him there since touching down, the president firmly standing with Israel, but cautioning, doing it subtly, but suggesting that Israel's response needed to be keep humanitarian mission in mind, to be not target civilians. And they're relaying the latest from intelligence, the idea that they do believe that a hospital was destroyed by a rocket fired from within Gaza, as opposed to an Israeli strike, but cautioning that it's still under investigation. And we have seen a number of social media posts, video, some proved to not be true, circulate in the last couple hours. The Israeli government is proceeding with their investigation, but it is complicated, Mika, because of course they
what is the White House, or how is the White House reacting to some of these sentiments? Because there's a mixture of sentiments world over. There's those who support the mission by Israel. There are those who are against the mission by Israel. What is the White House saying? What are Americans saying?
I think the problem is that there is this lack of registration that Hamas is a terrorist designated group here in the United States, and many agree with that, even the Palestinian people. This is not a war against the Palestinians. This is a war against Hamas that carried out a carnage, a terrorist attack inside Israel, not with the aim of saving anyone or grabbing land, but with the aim of killing innocent Jewish populations. And that fact that this doesn't register with many people is very concerning. It's very dangerous, considering the fact that the United States has said time and again that it's working, first of all, to get aid into Gaza unless Hamas decides to once again steal that aid. And second of all, another concern, notably by Egypt, and the reason Egypt is not opening the Rafah border is because it's afraid that these Hamas terrorists will take advantage of that and join the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. So the United States is trying as well as it can to distinguish between Hamas and the Palestinian people, but it's very difficult when their bases are under hospitals, are under schools, and they're using human shields and the Palestinian people, unfortunately, to set out the message that they're sending out. And I think that's something that's extremely disrespectful and heartbreaking, notably for the Israelis who've lost so many people. And of course, in the crossfire for many years, Palestinians have been a victim of Hamas as well. That's how the White House is looking at it, and many Americans here as well.
All right, Susan, thank you very much for that point. Dan, as we conclude this, because I'm out of time and I want your brief response to this one, in your view, what can the international community do to help defeat Hamas? Because they are the problem here.
Well, I reject that premise entirely. Your correspondent just listed off a series of lies that Palestinians use human shields. Israel uses human shields. Israel keeps millions of Palestinians, 2.4 million Palestinians inside a concentration camp, bombs them, starves them, shoots them on a daily basis. And that is the fundamental problem here is apartheid Israel. Israel uses human shields so much that it has an actual procedure for it. It's called the neighbor policy. The Israeli human rights group B'Tselem has writes about it. This is documented. Myself, as a reporter in the Palestinian West Bank, in the occupied West Bank, I was used as a human shield by Israeli soldiers. So it's a complete farce. It is pure propaganda. I have no idea what your correspondent is talking about, other than, I don't know if this is just as talking points that she's being fed, but that's not reporting. That is just straight up lies and propaganda. And it's shameful that actually your channel would host this, and you're taking such this position.
Thank you, Dan.
This is shameless. This is shameful.
Dan Cohen, thank you very much.
You should be ashamed.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
You're doing your best
Susan
to promote this war.
Susan Teherani as well. Thank you very much for all your inputs. And Dan, thank you for talking to Beyond Wild.
Welcome to another episode of Revolutionary Blackout Live, and today we're doing Straight Out of Politics. I'm your host for today. I go by CJ on social media. That stands for Compton J. J in real life. Family calls me James. So that's how it goes. And of course, I had to start with this epic takedown by friend of the show, Dan Cohen. He was just on the show a couple of days ago. This is a topic that he's done extensive work on. This is a topic, and he's Jewish, and this is a topic as a Jewish guy he feels very strongly about, that he has to speak up. So this is textbook allyship that our white allies, when we're talking about the Black community, take note. Because this is the position he's in. He's in a position as a Jew where his words are going to have more landing effect because he is Jewish. In the same sort of way that our white comrades need to get into your white communities and advocate for issues that you are in solidarity with the Black community. This is what we're talking about. You got to go at it this hard too, the way he's going. So there's a lot to get to. Doing these shows earlier in the day is very nerve-wracking because literally up until you see my face, I'm looking to see what updates have come through for the stories I'm doing. So I'm have the less ability to be really fully prepared, like a show at nighttime that I can really prepare without the hopes of the news is literally changing as I'm talking. For example, the speaker vote is happening right now. I'm not going to cover it. I mean, we have too much stuff. I might give you an update or something like that, but we have way too much stuff to cover today, so that I'm just not going to be able to get to that. But before we get started here, we're going to start with this Dan video where he absolutely decapitates, figuratively, Zionism. And I love the part at the end, and I only played to you the end. I didn't play you the first half. I love the part there where Like he's like, I don't know where she's getting this information, because this is what Zionists do. This is why it's so hard to do. They literally just make up shit. Like RFK, it's like, I don't even know what to say to that. You have said so much nonsense. Like, I don't even know where to start. So let's do a couple of things before we get here. So we're at 237 people here. We already got some new members, so let's shout our new members out, get them their proper introduction. Oops, did I click it? Yeah. Here is Jonah, new member. Jonah to the RBN YouTube family. Thank you for joining, and welcome to the team, or maybe welcome to the group. That's a better way of saying it. I wouldn't say team. Gifted 10 RBN memberships. Wow. I got to figure out how that works. Or I don't know. Do you give it to somebody, or how that works, or random people is given to? So Rulon, I hope that's how you say it. Rulon has gifted 10 RBN YouTube memberships. That is absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much. Show some love for our new members in the chat, everybody, especially Rulon, who has gifted 10 of you free memberships, and that is just a great thing, being very generous. Now we are, let's see where we're at 58 likes, 250 people watching. Let's make our target 225. Let's start out the right way. 225 is the target. The maximum people I've seen, 252. 225. All right, now we're gonna get started, everybody. This is at 58. I like to have these numbers so that we can see the change in between segments. And so far, we've had 143 people come through so far. All right, so this is a good starting point. For today's show, we're going to be taking a lot of different looks on the same issues, but from different perspectives and a different question being asked. So this first one right here is how to deal with the Zionist propaganda PR arm known as media. So Dan Cohen is schooling or putting on a clinic on how to deal with that media. And Aaron, you can start, or actually, because there's a little bit ahead, but I'll get back into it right here. I do want to start from the beginning, because it didn't start at this high level. She said a whole bunch of craziness in the beginning. And then when Dan began to talk, the host, he interrupted Dan and said, you need to start acting like you got some sense here, basically. So let's watch, because it didn't start here. And shout out to Dan. Hopefully we'll have him on soon, maybe next week or the week after, again, to just give us some more updates on Israel. Tonight, though, journalist Wyatt Reed, who's also reporting on this, will be on Nick at Night. Today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, Nick at Night. So let's backtrack and let's start here from the beginning.
Dan Cohen is a senior journalist from Washington, D.C. He's now joining us on the broadcast. Also on the broadcast is our correspondent, Susan Teherani in New York. Welcome both to the broadcast. I'll begin with Susan Teherani. What's the latest from the White House?
There's a sound delay. That's why
Eric,
that
we
is.
do know that there are 4 or 5 aspects of President Biden's trip that we'll be looking at very closely. and issues that will be on his agenda. As you mentioned, it's to demonstrate America's unwavering support to Israel and its operations moving forward. But then you have the hostage situation as well. The coordination with Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to be very important. It's encouraging to hear that Hamas has said that it may release some non-Israeli hostages. That's something that we expect the president to talk about with Prime Minister Netanyahu and others in Israel as well. Also, the president is very keen to understand Israel's military plans, notably those potential ground offensives moving forward. He wants to understand whether or not how much assistance the United States for how long needs to provide, and to ensure that this conflict doesn't spill into a regional fight. And then, of course, a resolution to the conflict. Ultimately, the president needs to understand, his team wants to know what's the plan the day after the ground invasions are over. Will Israeli troops retreat? Will there perhaps be Fatah stepping in? Will Palestinians be left to themselves to reconstruct? So these are very important aspects. And then, of course, the issue of diplomacy, of course, is very important, because we do know that when he goes to Jordan, he'll not only be speaking to the Jordanian king, but also Sisi of Egypt and Abbas of the Palestinian.
Don.
So that was a lot of nonsense, but you notice that Dan, he's saying Don, but it's with an accent. But Dan, no interruptions. The host, no interruptions. Okay, you notice that. Now, let's watch when we pivot to Dan and listen to the question that he asked him and how Dan rejects the question.
Biden's administration is working to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, but so far it has not criticized Israel's moves to cut off electricity and even food there. But Arab leaders have protested to American officials that the blockade amounts to collective punishment and is illegal under the laws of war. Is Biden likely to change the tide, or what does the White House hope to achieve with his visit?
Ha!
The Biden administration is doing everything possible to ensure that this war continues. It is giving blanket support to the Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu to drop as many bombs as possible to reduce Gaza to a smoldering pile of rubble, no matter the human cost. Even when we see Israeli soldiers on CNN, on television, saying that they are explicitly targeting civilians, that this is a war against civilians. We see politicians like...
Dan, I'm sorry
Yes,
to
sir.
interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let's have some sort of decorum, because it's a sensitive moment. It's a sensitive period in the country. It's a sensitive period in the world. So let's just be objective. Try to be objective with
The young lady on the left came in, propaganda guns blazing. Nigga picking shit off like she a sniper. Says nothing about that. Dan comes in with an unbiased. Hers is the slanted take. His is the less unbiased take. Negroes in Africa also, or Negroes with African accents also, propping up this nonsense. But Dan does very well. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. He says, Don. Come on, let's let's have a little bit funny, but interesting.
in the country. It's a sensitive period in the world.
Sorry, let me go back a little further. When Dan, I was gonna say Don. When Dan is talking, go ahead.
Sensitive moment. It's a sensitive.
Oh, my bad. Let me go back some more. I'll just go back way back right here.
Television saying that they are explicitly targeting civilians, that this is a war against civilians. We see politicians like...
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But let's have some sort of decorum, because it's a sensitive moment. It's a sensitive period in the country. It's a sensitive period in the world.
Civility,
so let's just be objective. Try to be objective with this, because it is a war against Hamas and not Gaza. So if we say that the war is going to extend, what does that mean to the people in Gaza and to Palestine, because we have to be sensitive.
Watch Dan. He's ready. He's about to
Well, I
destroy.
reject the very premise that this is a war against Hamas and not only and only against Hamas and not only against the people of Palestine. We saw member of Israeli Knesset Moshe Feiglin today call to kill everything that moves. We've seen Israeli soldiers, as I said on CNN, explicitly say this is a war against civilians. He corrected the anchor. There is no way to have a war. Israel cannot defeat Hamas. It's shown again and again through repeated wars. So what you have is Hamas underground in a tunnel system where they're basically largely safe from Israeli bombs, and the civilian population with nowhere to go, besieged in a concentration camp, an open-air prison, being bombed mercilessly. We have now more than 1,000 Palestinian children dead, and that's the United States' goal, is to continue this war. So my goal, I want a ceasefire. There has to be a ceasefire. There has to be negotiations to have return of the Israeli hostages. There are 200 hostages at least, and Israel is not negotiating for them. It's bombing them. Israel very well may be killing those hostages, while at the same time telling the families, the desperate families of those people who are protesting outside the Israeli Defense Ministry, that there's really nothing they can do. And actually, the Israeli public, there are members of the Israeli public who are attacking those family members who want their loved ones to come home, and calling them traitors and saying they hope they die. So, I mean, I'm being sensitive to the plight of the people living under the bombs, the Israelis who have had their loved ones hostage. I don't care about the sensitivities of the Biden administration or the political machinations.
That's what you call a journalist. I don't, motherfucker. Let me translate how CJ was saying. And I would stutter. My voice would go up a little bit. Motherfucker. I don't give a fuck about no bike. What the truth and how it relates or reflects on anybody. Truth is truth, and I gotta add bitch at the end. Truth is truth, bitch. This is why I couldn't do this shit. This is why I gotta be here by myself in the room. Cause I'm not fucking around with this shit, man. Fuck you. What you talking about? You over here, and he essentially says that. Now he does it a lot more professionally, and that's why Dan is where he is, and I'm where I'm at. But let's continue with Dan. Total destruction of Zionism in this clip.
Don, stay with me.
Don.
Susan, listening to what Don has said, what is the White House, or how is the White House reacting to some of these sentiments? Because there's a mixture of sentiments wild over. There's those who support the mission by Israel. There are those who are against the mission by Israel.
So let me. I should have prefaced this. So when we started in the introduction, so if you're watching since the introduction, where I played the ending part of this, we're about to get into that. This is the question. I just started with the answer. I just started with her answer in the introduction. So for those of you who are wondering why is she saying what she's saying, this is the question, and then we'll go into her answer again. So this guy is giving her a chance to say, hey, you heard what this guy has said, and he's articulated with evidence saying this was said on CNN, which it was, and everybody knows that, including them. And then he named another person, either a former government official or a current government official, saying something which they can't refute. Which they can't refute. This is why they tend to not have journalists who are actually journalists on to report, because they can say, wait, no. I was there on the ground. I saw this. I know this. You cannot tell me not. I don't care what you have everywhere else. I was there, and there's no rebuttal. So I love that about reporters like Dan Cohen. Wyatt Reed is another one who has the ability to say things like that.
Or the political machinations.
Don, stay with me.
Listen to the question and
Susan,
how she answers that.
Listening to what Don has said, what is the White House, or how is the White House reacting to some of these sentiments? Because there's a mixture of sentiments wild over. There's those who support the mission by Israel. There are those who are against the mission by Israel. What is the White House saying? What are Americans saying?
I think the problem is that there is this lack of registration that Hamas is a terrorist designated group.
The word registration, in layman's term, how normal people would say acknowledgement. There's a lack of an acknowledgement that Hamas is a terrorist. She is basically saying, the ruling class is saying, we have to start there, otherwise our argument doesn't work. So if we don't start there, nothing else a pro-Israel advocate can say will register. You have to start with Hamas as a terrorist organization. And the reason they feel like they can say that partly is because they help to fund them. So let's listen to the rest of her answer here.
Group here in the United States, and many agree with that, even the Palestinian people. This is not a war against the Palestinians. This is a war against Hamas that carried out a carnage, a terrorist attack inside Israel, not with the aim of saving anyone or
a carnage. What happened on October 7th, that's a carnage. But 500 plus people dead is a what? How would you classify that, the hospital bombing that we're going to get to?
or grabbing land, but with the aim of killing innocent Jewish populations. And that fact that this doesn't register with many people is very concerning. It's very dangerous, considering the fact that
it's concerning that they have lost narrative control. And remember, I just did a segment where the guys over at Pod Save America was talking about what just happened with this. Let me say it a different way. Mainstream and establishment figures understand that they have lost the ability to control the narrative, specifically because of the internet, the ability for us to share and go around their gatekeeping. So they can see all the support that's on social media for Palestine. Literally, is twice as much that you will see that is pro-Israel. I'm not saying in the polls, I'm saying on social media. They can see that. And social media reflects the real thoughts of people, the working class. That's where you're going to get the most ground level besides being in person. And, you know, they can't go in person to all the millions of people. So they analyze social media. They know this is happening. And Pod Save America podcast came out last week, and I did a segment on it. I can't remember when, but I did a segment on it. And that'll probably be dropping soon, the clip, where they're talking about how social media has presented a problem for corporate media because they have the ability to get ahead of the story before the talking points, ruling class talking points, come out. And this is the clampdown on social media. It's not just about COVID and the pandemic. It's not just about Ukraine. It's about any sort of ruling class establishment narrative. All of it. So on Israel, they see all the pro-Palestine shit. They don't want to address it, but here they do. Let's let the video continue.
That the United States has said time and again that it's working, first of all, to get aid into Gaza unless Hamas decides to once again steal that.
It's Hamas again. Now, we don't hear the host coming in. Hey, I can't remember what her name. Hey, Miss Lady Guest here. could you sort of be unbiased with what you're saying? None of that is coming when she talks in this way, though.
That aid. And second of all, another concern, notably by Egypt, and the reason Egypt is not opening the Rafah border is because it's afraid that these Hamas terrorists will take advantage of that.
Why should Egypt open their borders to people whose land, they belong to this land? Why should Egypt open that? And understand, this is part of the colonial project, either by death or by exit. So whether we're going to kill you or you can leave here. But they're trying to present it as if any country, because it's Arab, is supposed to automatically take them. Why? Preposterous. Let's continue here.
That and join the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. So the United States is trying as well as it can to distinguish between Hamas and the Palestinian people, but it's very difficult.
It's very
difficult. Their bases are under hospitals.
It's very difficult when the population is 50% under 18. It's very difficult. And I believe the numbers are in the late, like 38 to 40% is under 15. What, the 500 babies that were killed? Over 500 now. The tally's over. I don't want to be wrong with the number. So 500 plus. Was those babies hard to distinguish?
Are under.
It's so flimsy. It is so flimsy. And let me just let it
schools, and they're using human shields and the Palestinian people, unfortunately, to set out.
Dan is going to take care of it.
And I think that's something that's extremely disrespectful and heartbreaking, notably for the Israelis who've lost so many people. And of course, in the crossfire for many years, Palestinians have been a victim of Hamas as well. That's how the White House is looking at it, and many Americans here as well.
All right.
Now, no interruptions. No, hey, I got to go. Notice how he prefaces Dan. Because we have a loose cannon on the show today. So what he does, he limits his time and he narrows the scope of the question to ensure that Dan stays within acceptable lines. But Dan says, fuck these lines, bitch. That's what Dan says. Watch this.
All right, Susan, thank you very much for that point. Dan, as we conclude this, because I'm out of time and I want your brief response to this one, in your view, what can the international community do to help defeat Hamas? Because they are the problem here.
Well, I reject that premise entirely. Your correspondent just listed off a series of lies that Palestinians use human shields. Israel uses human shields. Israel keeps millions of Palestinians, 2.4 million Palestinians inside a concentration camp, bombs them, starves them, shoots them on a daily basis. And that is the fundamental problem here is apartheid Israel. Israel uses human shields so much that it has an actual procedure for it. It's called the neighbor policy. The Israeli human rights group B'Tselem has writes about it. This is documented. Myself, as a reporter in the Palestinian West Bank, in the occupied West Bank, I was used as a human shield.
You see the 3 points he just made that they can't refute. Something was said on CNN, and I did a segment a couple of days ago on it. Something was said, oh no, is that today? Or yesterday? Something was said on CNN by he said he corrected Abby Martin. Oh, hold on, no. This is not just against Hamas. This is against the civilians too. Let me make sure you understand that. Makes that point. Then he mentions the name of another official. And then he says, me in Israel, I was also used. He's Jewish now. I was also used as a human shield. They have lost control of the narrative.
By Israeli soldiers. So it's a complete farce. It is pure propaganda. I have no idea what your correspondent is talking about, other than, I don't know if this is just as talking points that she's being fed, but that's not reporting. That is just straight up lies and propaganda. And it's shameful that actually your channel would host this, and you're taking such
Don,
position.
I love this.
Thank you,
Don,
This is shameless. This is shameful.
Don Cohen, thank you very much.
No, you should be ashamed.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm the only one having a reaction, because it's beautiful to see Zionism be completely dismantled, decapitated, castrated, whatever words you want to use. It is a beautiful thing. I'm going to rewind it one more time, just the last 10 seconds. I got to see this one more time. I absolutely love it. Don. Let's listen.
As a reporter in the Palestinian West Bank, in the occupied West Bank, I was used as a human shield by Israeli soldiers. So it's a complete farce. It is pure propaganda. I have no idea what your correspondent is talking about, other than, I don't know if this is just as talking points that she's being fed, but that's not reporting. That is just straight up lies and propaganda. And it's shameful that actually your channel would host this, and you're taking such this position.
Thank you, Don.
This is shameless. This is shameful.
Don Cohen, thank you very much.
No, you should be ashamed.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
You're doing your best to promote this war.
Susan Teherani as well.
Then
Thank
he
you
cut
very
his
much
mic
for
off
all
right
your
there.
inputs. And Don, thank you for talking to me on one.
Don. Oh, I'm sorry. I find that accent very funny when he's saying Don. Oh, that's hilarious to me. I'm by myself. I understand. I'm by myself with this. I'm gonna cover this tweet when we get to this next segment, where we're gonna talk more specifically about what's happening, the bombing. So that's the top, of course, the main story for today. So let's get to that. I will shout out, because 2 more members were just added, so I will shout you out. I'm waiting for my screen to refresh so I can see who it is here. All right, so it's starting to refresh here. Don, that was hilarious. All right, so we have 2 new members, and I know, Chima, you've made several comments that we've put up and now you have said, okay, you guys are pretty good enough where I'm going to join this community. I like the chat. I'm just putting words in your mouth, but thank you for being joining the YouTube community that we have. We are at 228 likes, 228 likes. So we blew past the original target, and here it is right here. We were at 258. We're at 228. The target was 225, so we've already hit that. Thank all of you very much for doing that. Let me just update the numbers, and we will get right into the next story. The new goal is 425, since we are currently at 480 people watching right now. So the new goal is 425. Thank you for that. And I think our peak, I saw that number get up to 485 is what I saw. I'll just say that. It might have been higher, but I'll say that. And we've had 846 people make their way through at a point to on YouTube. Let me do this again. 846 people made their way at a point to check out the stream. Just love to shout out those people, because you guys dropped in and out, lunch break. You'll watch a little bit, a segment or two, then you'll drop back out. Somebody else will drop in for another, bathroom break and now they're watching. So appreciate everything. And then you go back and watch all of it at a certain point. So great segment though. Dan absolutely mercilessly destroyed them on camera, and it was a beautiful thing. Now let's get into the main story, the story where a lot of these other stories are sort of centered around, and that is Israel bombs Gaza hospital, hundreds killed. Let me take this down here and put up the headline here. I'll start with the article headline. And Aaron, you can begin here. 500 dead as Israel bombs Al-Ahli Arab hospital in Gaza. Let me do that again, Aaron. That was a bad start. Israel bombs Gaza hospital, and I'll read the headline: 500 dead as Israel bombs Al-Ahli Arab hospital in Gaza. And this headline I take from World Socialist website. The writer there, Alex Lantier, not even 12 hours old. And let's start with this article before we get into some of the video footage that we have. Now, we're not going to be showing anything graphic or anything like that, but we will be showing some footage, on the ground footage of what's happening in Gaza. I'll just put it that way. But here we go. 500 people were killed and many more injured when the Israel Defense Force bombed the Al-Ahli Arab hospital in Gaza City on Tuesday. Protests erupted internationally against this war crime committed as U.S. President Joe Biden and the leaders of the other NATO imperialist powers reaffirmed their full support for Israel's genocidal assault on the Palestinians in Gaza. The bombing of the hospital took place under conditions where Israel's blockade of the densely populated and impoverished enclave, widely described as an open-air prison, we're going to say open-air concentration camp, has cut off all water, fuel, and food supplies. It followed an IDF evacuation order demanding that 1.1 million Palestinians flee Gaza City and northern Gaza and move to the south. Shortly before the hospital was bombed, Israeli forces bombed a UN school at the nearby Al-Mahazi refugee camp, killing 6 people and wounding dozens. UN relief and work agencies, that's UNRWA, official Tamra al-Rafa said there was, quote, direct Israeli fire, end quote, on the school. She called the attack utterly shocking and adding, we clearly identify all of our buildings and we share the GPS coordinates with all the parties fighting in the war. That camp hosted 4,000 displaced people. The bombing of the school was followed by a massive explosion at the Al-Ahli Arab hospital, where hundreds wounded in Israel's air assault had been joined by thousands seeking refuge from the murderous attacks at what they believe would be a relatively safe location. The hundreds killed in the hospital bombing included refugees sleeping on the ground outside of the facility, according to reports by health workers at the scene. And we have the news conference by the doctors that will be playing. Oh, actually, it might be in this article. I read up until 2 paragraphs ago. Doctors Ghassan Abu Shati said, we were operating in the hospital. There was a strong explosion, and the ceiling fell on the operating room. This is a massacre. There's a tweet. We couldn't count the dead because most bodies are in parts. 30 to 40% of the victims are children. "30 to 40% of the victims are children. We have seen a massacre, a genocide." An emergency first responder who witnessed the bombing told the Adola agency they were sleeping only under trees, not rooms, not shelter, no rooms, no shelter. Sorry for the roast. Anyway, they were bombed with rockets. There were no wounded. All of them were killed. We could not count the martyrs. They were torn to pieces. At minimum, 30 to 40% of them were children. He added, quote, "The genocide must be stopped. For the leaders of the world, you must stop this massacre of Gaza." The Doctors Without Borders international medical charity denounced the Israeli bombing on X. "We are horrified by the recent Israeli bombing of Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza City, which were treating patients and hosting displaced Gazans. Hundreds of people were reportedly killed. It is absolutely unacceptable." Okay. Palestinian Health Ministry officials confirmed the number of fatalities at over 500, but added that more victims were buried under the rubble. They said the overall number of deaths in the Israeli bombing of Gaza since the uprising against the Israeli blockade of Gaza began on October 6-7 had reached 3,000, with over 12,000 wounded. These figures are already higher than those registered during the 53-day Israeli war on Gaza in 2014. And they show a map showing you where the location. Israeli officials cynically tried to deny their responsibility for the massacre, claiming that the hospital was hit by rockets intended for Israel that were launched by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, but which misfired. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said, quote, "Barbaric terrorists in Gaza," end quote, "were responsible for," quote, "attacking," end quote, the hospital, adding, quote, "whoever brutally murdered our children is also murdering their children," end quote. Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Herzog, posted a video on Twitter purportedly to show rockets launched from Gaza falling back onto Gazan territory, claiming it showed the Al-Ali Arab Hospital attack. This lie fell apart when it emerged that the timestamp on the video around 8 p.m. was nearly 3/4 of an hour later than the time of the bombing. Islamic Jihad issued a statement denying responsibility for attack, declaring the Zionist enemy is trying hard to evade its responsibility for the brutal massacre he committed by bombing the Baptist Arab National Hospital in Gaza through his usual fabrication of lies and through pointing the finger of blame at the Islamic Jihad movement in Palestine. The Netanyahu government and its NATO backers carried out this horrific massacre. It flows from the entire genocidal strategy of the IDF and the Netanyahu government, fully supported by Washington and its European imperialist allies. A central part of the Israeli government's strategy of genocide and ethnic cleansing, as it orders over 1 million Gazans to leave their homes while denying them access to water, food, fuel, has been to block access to medical care. Israeli and NATO officials have defended the illegal blockade of Gaza, even though the cutoff of energy will lead to mass deaths of premature babies in incubators, dialysis patients, and intensive care patients whose treatment depends on steady supply of electricity. Yesterday, of Gaza's 23 hospitals, 20 were offering only partial services because their fuel and energy reserves were almost totally depleted, the UNRWA reported. Earlier this week, World Health Organization officials confirmed that in Gaza, 111 health facilities have been attacked, 12 healthcare workers killed, and 60 ambulances bombed. I'll go back up here. So that's where we're going to start. Just awful. And I'm sorry, I forgot to shout this out. I just remembered. Vicious Pixie, also brand new member. Forgot to shout that out when I was shouting out the members, the brand new members. So thank you for being a brand new member. Just horrific. The details. I did want to start with the details because there is just so much footage and coverage of this on Twitter, which we're about to go to, that it's hard to chronologically put it in order. So I wanted to go through what is going on, and now we can kind of visualize, get visual depictions of what the article was saying. Oh, wow. Isn't that great to start with? And that's Margaret Kimberly with this awesome meme. Genociding with Biden. Let me refresh something here because it's acting up. You can't see this, but I'll refresh something here. Okay, so it looks like now it's going to work. So what I'm going to do is take you to, like I said, I have a ton of receipts here. They're not in any particular order. Maybe I'll try to go through them as such, but let's see how we can get through all of this here. Here we go. Let me scroll down. There's a lot. There's a lot here. So let me scroll all the way down here. Actually, let me start here. Actually, no. Let me scroll down. I want to skip steps. So I'll start here. This is Jeremy Corbyn tweet, and we'll start with, and it kind of just gives information here. Israeli. I keep getting a pop up in the back. Israeli airstrikes have hit Al Ali hospital in Gaza. More than 500 people. Patients, doctors, and those sheltering have been killed. I forgot. So the article earlier didn't mention doctors, I don't believe. What unspeakable horror. We will mourn their loss forever. Our leaders could have spoken up for peace. They choose to cheer on war instead. When will they demand an end to these atrocious war crimes, how many Palestinian lives will it take to call for these indiscriminate killings to stop? Please, for the sake of humanity, raise your voice for an immediate ceasefire. The existence of the Palestinian people is at stake. I'll see if I can find a tweet like this from Bernie Sanders. Maybe I will be. Actually, I will be, because I do have a segment set up for that. It's not extensive as this, but you get what I'm saying. So let's go to another tweet. Or, I'm sorry, another item here. Just a headline, and then we have a audio recording of a phone call with one of the doctors, and this is from Dan Cohen. So this is also just a headline. Just wanted to show breaking. Al Jazeera reports that the IDF spokesperson says they had warned regarding evacuating the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital as well as 5 other hospitals. So an IDF spokesperson said that? That's what they're saying. And Kim Iversen's take on this is, we warned you to move all your sick and sheltered from the hospital before we bombed it. Your fault. Oh, and there are 5 others we're targeting. May the odds ever be in your favor. She's attacking it with a little sarcasm. Now let's get to this here. And this is Dan Cohen. I spoke with Dr. Mohammed Ziara in Gaza's largest hospital, where casualties are arriving from Israel's bombing of the I'm just going to say the Baptist hospital in Gaza. He says there are between 500 to 800 casualties. Let's listen to part of the call. Likely not to listen to all of the call, but let's listen.
Yes, hello Dan.
Hi, Muhammad. Thank you for speaking with me. Maybe let's be fast, because I can't imagine the
Yes, please. Yes, please.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me, what is the situation right now? I saw they bombed the Al-Ahli hospital.
Yes, I can't think about anything else, because we just received our colleague. He came back from the Al-Ahli hospital. He went in this morning to help with doing surgery there, and we heard about the bombing of the Al-Ahli hospital, so we couldn't believe it. We thought it's just near it or around the gate of it. But once we saw him and he told the story, there was hundreds of people, like body parts, all around the place. They came to take shelter in the hospital, and they bombed the hospital, and he bombed them all. They were all dead. Even the firemen and the ambulance, the medical team, and the paramedics, when arrived there, they didn't find any injured. They all did. It's over 500 now.
Over 500. Oh my God. You're in Al-Shifa hospital?
Something happened.
Mohammed there.
He's gonna call him back.
Ziada, who is a surgeon in Al-Shifa hospital. I just got to speak with him for 1 minute. See if I can reconnect with him. Mohammed? Mohammed? Can you hear me? Mohammed?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know where did the connection get off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I heard everything that you said. So your colleague just came from Al-Ahli hospital, and
Yes.
Is he injured? Is he wounded?
No, he is not wounded. he was there in the OT. He was performing surgery, and then the bomb happened, and he tried to evacuate any injured people alive. But he was in the ambulance pressing on the neck of a guy with the shrapnel in his neck, and there was active bleeding, massive bleeding. So he tried to stop it in the ambulance, and he came here. All the horrible look in his eyes, as you see in the video.
Did the Israelis call or warn the hospital that they would bomb it?
I don't understand. Please repeat again. I didn't.
Did Israel
get
call?
the-
Did Israel call and say we are going to bomb the hospital, or they bomb without warning?
Do you think there is any sane guy or sane people that could bomb a hospital? You can't bomb a hospital in any time. They bombed the hospital and with the hundreds inside it. We didn't have any alarm or any warning. It's a hospital. Why? How the hell he would Israel would bomb the hospital? This is not even a question. This is not even thinkable.
Yeah.
They bombed the hospital without any warning, without any history in the whole world of bombing a hospital like this with hundreds of people in it. It's unreal. It's really unreal. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
We
this
still
is
can't believe it. The numbers are raising. It's over now over 500, and some says it's 800.
and now these the casualties are coming to Al Shifa.
Yes, they come to Al-Shifa because this hospital was bombed is about 3 to 4 kilometers away from the Al-Shifa hospital. And by the way, it's a Christian Anglican hospital. It's
Yeah, it's a Baptist
directly
hospital.
related to the English hospitals and
Yeah,
Christian people.
yeah. It's a Baptist hospital. It's a Christian hospital.
What
So when they say this is a religious war, what are you bombing a Baptist hospital for? If this is about religion, the lies of this colonial project is falling apart.
I was there 2 days ago. I was there, and I went back with the ambulance, and it was just horrifying. I couldn't believe that they would bomb the hospital. I was afraid they would bomb targeting our ambulance, targeting a building near us, but to target a hospital like this one, it's considered the safest place in Gaza, maybe more than the hospital of which I work in, Al-Shifa Hospital. It's unbelievable. This is a message from Israel that we don't care, we don't give any importance, we don't give any damn for anyone, anywhere, for any building, for any organization, any other country. This is unreal. This is a message. This is a message for all of us. You are not safe anywhere, and you won't be safe unless you leave Gaza. This is the message.
Yep, that is the message.
are you? What it seems are the doctors, if they threaten Al Shifa, the doctors, everyone. I mean, I've seen in some hospitals the Israelis threatened it, and the people refuse to leave. They resist and say, "No, we're not leaving." Is this
Yeah.
the spirit in Al Shifa?
We won't leave. I am in the hospital since day two. I didn't leave it, and I won't leave. All who can come here, who couldn't, who didn't get a trap in some area with his family, who didn't get bombed or targeted, they will keep coming and do their work. I think there is a big shortage in the medical staff, but we will stay. We will keep doing our work.
It's got an influx of 500.
Doesn't
The
matter
corner.
anymore. There is no place safe. There is no place. It's all the same. So we will keep doing our work. We will keep trying to save our lives. But if we die for a purpose. We die for a real purpose. We die while helping other people.
Meanwhile, in the United States, we got Bernie Sanders and AOC. You got people like this. This guy's a dying. Go somewhere and be a doctor somewhere else. Let's continue this.
It doesn't matter where we will die anyway, here or there. It is the same. But we won't live here, and we can't live anywhere. I mean, my family is about 50, maybe 20 kilometers away from me. I can't see them. I can't go to meet them. And I am still here. Why should I leave? Why would I leave my work and I can't see them? I won't leave. And even though every day, every night, I imagine them, and I am afraid of getting any member of my family in the emergency room. But I will keep working here. I will just put myself together and work here. And I hope I will continue that. I hope God will give me the strength to do that. I will go now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're a hero. You're a hero, Muhammad.
So that is a recording that Dan Cohen did with a doctor that he knows, Dr. Mohammed Ziara, who's at a hospital that is now taking the patients from the hospital that was bombed. So let's continue with our receipts here and just kind of going through some other actions. I do want to try to keep it in an order. So this is immediate sort of response. This is the rescue sort of response to the bombing. Let me read the caption. Breaking live video from Al Ali National Baptist Hospital, 500 killed. Their Israeli airstrikes had no prior warning. Palestinian Ministry of Health live report confirms the death toll has increased to 500 Palestinians killed. Yeah, we can't. We're not going to show all of that. We're not going to show all of that just because I promised I wouldn't be too graphic. I wouldn't be too graphic. So let's because I got more video. Don't worry, I got more video that's less graphic. BBC pre-exempt Israel's ultimate justification for attacking Gaza's hospital and killing hundreds. And here, this is what he's talking about. BBC, does Hamas build tunnels under hospitals and schools? Just a joke. Just a joke. But this narrative is absolutely falling apart. Let me here's one, another one. This is more showing the buildings and not any person. But here we go.
علينا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. مش قادر اشوف شبشبه. علينا وين بدي اطلع؟ مش هذا. حسبنا الله ونعم.
Right, I'm gonna let it loop. You can see that again.
مش قادر اشوف شبشبه. علينا وين بدي اطلع؟ مش هذا. حسبنا الله ونعم. علينا.
All right. Jewish Voice for Peace is an organization that is pro-Palestinian. These are Jews for Palestinians. It says the Israeli military just bombed Al-Ahi hospital where refugees in Gaza were sheltering after being displaced. Over 500 people killed in an instant. These atrocities must stop. This is genocide. Ceasefire now. And they quote tweeted Miriam here. She says, quote, the scene is too horrific to even film a journalist in the strip right now. Israel just bombed Angelica's hospital, killing hundreds in 1 second, the same hospital that homeless Palestinians were at. Can you imagine these refugees too? They're slaughtering refugees. All right, got some more video. This is a headline here. This is the AP. Breaking, the Gaza Health Ministry says at least 500 people killed in an explosion at the hospital that it says was caused by an Israeli airstrike. Now, you notice they say it said. They don't just say it happened. And then Mike Wallace, of course, let's listen to him. And if you don't know who Mike Wallace is, or Mick Wallace, I'm sorry, Mick Wallace, but he's member of the European Parliament, but he's completely based, I believe he's a communist or at least a socialist. Let's listen to what he said on the floor of the Parliament there.
When powerful countries refuse to show respect for international law, the less powerful suffer the consequences. According to UN figures, 545 children were killed in Ukraine in 500 days of war. Reports coming from Gaza now say that over 1,000 children have been killed in 10 days by the apartheid state of Israel. Over 1,000 children in 10 days. And our EU Commission President and the Parliament President went to Israel to give their support to the Israeli onslaught against the Palestinians. An onslaught that has taken the shape of a genocide against innocent civilians trapped in an open-air prison called Gaza. The list of Israel's war crimes grow by the minute. A complete siege, incitement to genocide, forced expulsion, collective punishment, disproportionate aerial bombardment of the civilian population, civilian structures, hospitals, and humanitarian workers. By offering unqualified support for this grossly disproportionate colonial brutality, the EU leaders and politicians have made themselves complicit in Israeli war crimes. Does the EU care about the human rights of the Palestinians?
We don't like it when he gets up. Can you please finish, sir? All right, let's get to
powerful countries refuse to show
some more.
respect for
I'll pause that.
law.
Otherwise, it'll do that every time I scroll down. Now, here's another one. This is by friend of the show. You've seen him on the network many times. Midwestern Marks goes by, or he's known as, or his name is actually Eddie, but some people call him that because he's part of the Institute, the Midwestern Mark Institute. So let's listen to his TikTok video. Now, he's very popular on TikTok. His videos does tens of thousands. I think this video, the last time I checked, was at 45,000.
Israel just committed what might be their most horrific attack yet. They just bombed the last remaining Christian hospital in Gaza that was filled with people. Right now, the estimated casualty numbers are as much as 500. And Al Jazeera journalists have said that the scene is just horrific. Here's a video of the explosion. I mean, what do you call this if not a crime against humanity? Israel's still trying to say they're only targeting Hamas. Like, you can't tell us that all 500 people in this hospital were Hamas. They're just targeting anything and everything that's populated with Palestinians. And I know there are a lot of evangelical Christians in the United States who support Israel because of some end times prophecy. I had that kind of ideology pushed on me at one point in my life, actually. But you cannot tell me that this is something that Christians should be supporting. The bombing of Christian hospitals that are filled with civilians, women, and children. There's no God who would support this. No good person should support this. Don't let them use religion to push you into supporting a murderous apartheid state.
Yes, perfectly said by Eddie there. This is a Christian
Israel
hospital.
just committed what might be their most horrific attack yet.
Let's go to this one here. Breaking Baptist hospital massacre. A doctor from the hospital walking among the bodies. I need to make sure. I'm not sure I'm going to play the sound here so that YouTube doesn't do anything. Okay. All right. So I think I'll be fine playing the sound. It doesn't look like he goes to any sheets or anything like that. All right. So it's terrible. Let's listen.
This is really a genocide. You can see all the dead bodies behind me, all of these casualties. They try to find a safe place in the only Christian hospital in Gaza, Al Ahli National Hospital, Arab National Hospital. The only Christian hospital in Gaza. They try to find a safe place, they try to find a shelter. And they have been attacked by a barbaric bombardment. And all of these casualties came to the hospital, came as body parts amputated without any signs of life. We have received many casualties today in this massacre. This is really a genocide. According to the international humanitarian law, if you know what is the international humanitarian law, the hospital is supposed to be a safe place. It's supposed to be a shelter for the displaced people. And this is one of my neighborhood. His home is completely destroyed. He tried to find a safe place in the hospital, but he came again as dead body in our hospital here. This happened to one hospital in Gaza. Please don't wait to this massacre happen in any other hospital again. We have only 5 main hospitals working now, and they will be out of service in the coming hours. Don't wait until these hospitals became out of service, and don't wait until another massacre and another genocide happened to these civilians and these displaced. We are not feeling safe in this hospital now. We are not feeling safe in any place. Please stop this stop this genocide, stop this humanitarian crisis.
Just terrible.
This is really a genocide. You
I'm gonna
can
stop
see
it.
all the dead bodies behind me, all of these casualties. They try to find a safe place.
Now, this is the hospital before. This is what the hospital looked like before it was bombed. And this is low key. It says footage taken from the Baptist hospital in Gaza just 20 hours before Israel bombed it. So is it, if you're pro-Israel, is it your argument that you are justified in killing all of these people if there's a Hamas person amongst them? Is that what we supposed to go with? I mean, I'm just trying to understand the argument. Is that the argument? Is that we're supposed to be okay with you killing all of these people as long as you got 4 or 5 Hamas people that was here too? Off your argument. Hamas is not even here, but I'm just saying, on your own argument, is that what you're saying? If that is absolutely absurd. If you're an imperialist, genocidal, colonialist oppressor, you know what you see kids as? You see them as a problem. If you're trying to eradicate a people, kids are problems. So I mean, I almost think that maybe kids is the target. Oh, an old person, you're gonna die in a couple years. These young kids, they got 70 years ahead of them. It's just too, all those kids, they just we're sorry, they were just there. How come it's always the majority of the fatalities are civilians? It's never the majority of fatalities are Hamas. Yeah, 100 dead, 80 of them were Hamas, 20 civilians. It's never that. Here's another one. About 500 Palestinians were slaughtered at I'm going to call it just because it is a Baptist hospital. Eyewitnesses from the Baptist hospital talks about hundreds being treated and thousands sheltered. This is a genocide, a bloodbath. I'm assuming he's speaking English, so I am going to play it here. So anyway, I'll say that after on the other side. Let's listen.
احنا قاعدين شارين لنا واخدين اليوم من الدار قاعدين عند خالد في المستشفى بدنا نقعد قلب الدار جوا قديش عدد الناس اللي في المستشفى يمكن فوق الالوفات ما يقرب من 5000 واكثر والله ضربوا المستشفى والله العظيم ضربوا المستشفى واخويا استاوى وابويا استاوى والله استاوى بس الحمد لله ربنا على الظالم ربنا مش حينسانا.
I saw that one. Let's just continue here. So let's report on this part of the story, and this is Wyatt Reed. Wyatt Reed will be on Nick at Night tonight. Make sure you join our Substack so that you know when the time Nick at Night will start. We send out notifications through our Substack. And this part here. Why did they delete this tweet right after blowing up a Gaza hospital and killing 500 people? This is the Prime Minister of Israel. This is a tweet they sent out. This is a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle. That's the Prime Minister of Israel tweeted that out and then deleted it. Deleted it after the hospital was blown. Not really a good look. Is that what's going on? Not really a good look, right? They deleted the tweet that they were quote tweeting. So it was a video there to attach. And then let me read you this part. This is the cradle. And on the graphic, you saw the Iranian president on the graphic for today's show. This is the reason why. This is a quote from him. And it's some more information I'll say later about him. Iranian president, quote, the flames of U.S.-Israeli bombs dropped tonight on innocent Palestinians being treated for injuries in Gaza's hospital will soon engulf the Zionists. No free human being silence is permissible in the face of such a war crime. And that's the Iranian president. He's actually going to be making a trip somewhere. Let me see here. They're trying hard to curb this story and everybody's understanding of the story. And then it's just another one. This is Alan from Mint Press talking about the same thing, the tweet that was deleted by the Prime Minister of Israel. We'll just get his take. After being called out, the Prime Minister of Israel's office just deleted this extremely racist tweet, but the internet does not forget. And the racist part is between humanity and the law of the jungle. What does that mean? And Nick, RBN brother Nick right here, shut the fuck up, you terrorist scum. And that's to this here. Israel War Room sent this out as a tweet. Breaking. Reports suggest that the mass casualty event at the Baptist Hospital in Gaza was the result of a misfired rocket launched by Hamas. No IDF air activity was reported at the time. Really? Like anybody believes that nonsense? Now, so to that point, let's listen to this BBC reporter basically debunk what I just said in this tweet here by the Israel War Room. Let me blow it up and you can hear it. It's less than a minute.
The Israeli military has been contacted for comment, and they have said that they are investigating. But, it is hard to see what else this could be, really, given the size of the explosion, other than an Israeli airstrike or several airstrikes. Because, when we've seen rockets being fired out of Gaza, we never see explosions of that scale. We might see half a dozen, maybe a few more people being killed in such rocket attacks, but we've never seen anything on the scale of the sort of explosion on the video I was watching earlier, which, as you say, is still to be verified. The Israeli military.
He's not the only one on camera who makes a statement like this, and that's Margaret Kimberly saying, I never thought I quote the BBC. That's from Margaret Kimberly, where I saw that. Shout out to Margaret Kimberly. Now, I do want to pause here because I want to stay on this point about who is being blamed here. I want to stay on this point because earlier today, as preparing for the show, right before I go on, I see this on CNN, and now let's bring this up here. CNN Central. Is this it? Hang on a second here. Yeah, this is it. All right, so let's listen to this here.
Lose this vote potentially by even a worse margin than he did yesterday.
It is unprecedented,
the speaker
and
vote
it is frankly embarrassing. CNN's Caitlin Collins is in Tel Aviv, where President Biden just wrapped up his trip. And Caitlin, we just got this very consequential statement from the National Security Council. We should note it is not unheard of for the Palestinian authorities, the hospitals and the health ministry, which are controlled by Hamas, which the U.S. government does label a terrorist organization. It is not unheard of for them to misfire and kill their own people accidentally and blame it on Israel. And it does seem as though that is what the National Security Council believes happened here.
Yeah, and Jake, this comes after a lot of uproar and unrest that happened as a result of that explosion at that hospital in Gaza, with a lot of governments and even some lawmakers blaming the Israeli government, as of course you saw Palestinian authorities also doing similar yesterday. But now we do have a clear statement, one of the clearest that we have gotten yet, from the U.S. administration, saying that they do not believe Israel was responsible for that explosion.
So the United States has officially come out to say that they do not believe Israel. Oh my God, you're killing me with this comment right here. You're gonna kill me with this comment right here. Come on. Come on. Weaponized eyebrows. You're doing, come on, some comedians in the chat here. That's a killer one. All right, so back to the story. The United States has decided to believe this flimsy understanding of this event. And to speak to what I was saying earlier about Pod Save America, it's almost too late for the narrative. And what the show, Pod Save America show, was talking about how social media is getting ahead of corporate media narratives. They didn't say it this way. They said it more like, yeah, it's a problem that we're having all these takes on social media that people that go viral, that come out before we hear the actual official news from trusted media sites. And at that time, they were talking about places like CBS. And therein lies the issue. They're seeing that they're not having enough time to develop, construct, and deliver the ruling class narratives before the narrative has already, another narrative has already catch fire. This is why they're clamping down on social media. Clamping down on so-called YouTubers, podcasters. So let's listen. I'm going to rewind in 15 seconds and let's listen to a couple minutes of it.
Israeli government, as of course you saw Palestinian authorities also doing similar yesterday. But now we do have a clear statement, one of the clearest that we have gotten yet, from the U.S. administration, saying that they do not believe Israel was responsible for that explosion. This is from the National Security Council, President Biden's National Security Council. And the spokesman says in a quote, "While we continue to collect information, our current assessment, based on analysis of overhead imagery, intercepts, and open source information, is that Israel is not responsible for the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday." And Jake, that is the most clear statement we have gotten in writing yet. But of course, one just came from the president himself standing over my shoulder a few moments ago when he said that they did believe, based on what they have assessed, that it was an errant rocket that was fired by a terrorist group in Gaza that was responsible for what happened.
Is it me, or can you see in her face she knows that story is some bullshit? Because I'm looking at her, I'm like, she looks a little bit different. Like her eyes and her face, it looks a little bit different than how it normally looks when she's talking. It's almost like oh, I can't believe I'm saying this shit. That's what it looks like to me. These guys, more jokes here. Bold face lie. Yes. But you could see in her face. I'll rewind in 15 seconds. Tell me, put in the comments if you see the same thing
in writing yet. But of course, one just came from the president himself standing over my shoulder a few moments ago when he said that they did believe, based on what they have assessed, that it was an errant rocket that was fired by a terrorist group in Gaza that was responsible for what happened at that hospital yesterday. And obviously, that is hugely consequential of a statement for the president of the United States to back Israel up in those denials, based on not just what Israel has said, but he says based on his own Pentagon's assessment, Jake, of that, given what we have seen happen. I mean, part of this trip is not happening because of that. He was supposed to go on to Jordan and meet with the leaders there, the president of Egypt as well.
Yep. So he was supposed to also meet with he went to Israel, and he's supposed to go to a bunch of Arab countries to try to salvage the normalization of Israel, to try to see if what they can work out here, even with the refugees that are in Gaza. That's what he went. The problem is you're dealing with an unhinged maniac in Israel, and they don't give a fuck what it looks like, and they bomb a hospital. And while the president is traveling to Israel and the other Arab countries to visit, and several countries say, "Oh, fuck this shit," and backed out, which is pretty embarrassing according to them. So let's see.
Based on not just what Israel has said, but he says based on his own Pentagon's assessment, Jake, of that, given what we have seen happen. I mean, part of this trip is not happening because of that. He was supposed to go on to Jordan and meet with the leaders there, the president of Egypt as well. Those are meetings that are not happening. He's going back to the United States now. And so that is certainly significant, Jake. And of course, this entire trip was intended to not only just come here and show solidarity with Israel, but also to meet with other leaders in the area to figure out the path forward. And of course, he only met with one world leader, and that was the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu here. And those meetings centered on humanitarian aid, which he said Israel had agreed to let it come through Egypt, or to let it come into that entering into Gaza. That is significant since they have not been able to get any aid through that crossing so far. We haven't heard any comments from the Egyptians yet, Jake, and that would be hugely consequential, but it's kind of a wait and see situation to make sure it actually gets through, because we've seen instances in the past few days where they've said the Rafah crossing was going to open only for people to rush there and for it to not open. And so I think there's a lot of question of the follow through here of what this is going to look like. And also, what are the tangible achievements coming out of this visit beyond the president saying it wasn't Israel behind that explosion, and also that humanitarian aid is going to flow into Gaza?
Right. I mean, one of the things that's important for this visit, I believe that President Biden was hoping to talk to the leaders of Jordan and other Arab countries about, is what happens after Israel achieves its goals in Gaza, what happens after they decimate the leadership of Hamas, what happens for the Palestinian people. Can Arab countries be part of the solution? Obviously, if he can't talk to the leaders of Jordan, Egypt, and other countries, he can't come up with those solutions.
Yeah, and he's going to have a phone call with the president of Egypt on the way home, and the leaders of Jordan. But of course, you've heard President Biden. He said it in his own words. Nothing compares to face-to-face diplomacy, and actually having that. The White House has acknowledged that it is a setback, that those meetings are not happening in person. And for a U.S. president to come here, Jake, to the Middle East, and to have those leaders cancel on him and say that that is why they cannot come, that is a remarkable statement in and of itself. I mean, the White House will not deny that when you talk to officials. You've heard some of them on the record talking about why they're not doing that, what that looks like. They do acknowledge privately, Jake, that it is a setback and that it is meaningful. I mean, the last time the president was here in Israel, I was with him, and he went to Saudi Arabia after that. You're not seeing meetings like that happen. And of course, this is an even more heightened period of time given the conflict and the war that we are seeing playing out right before our eyes.
All right.
So I wanted to insert here the ruling class perspective, because it comes out after we've already established, like, and this is where narrative control for them they have to have a stranglehold on it. This is why the whole disinformation, this is why they're saying they have to crack down on all of this, because this narrative control they have completely lost. This is why we're getting strikes. This is why JB is getting his channel demonetized. They're trying to regain control of the narrative. And I don't know how they're going to do that, because that's not stopping JB, for example. Let's move back now. I think, yeah, this is the only one. So I guess I can go back to... actually, I got to just go back to where I left off, because I don't know where I left off in the presentation. So I have to I have to close it and open the old one up. Where were we? We were here. All right. So this is where we left off here. Now, just some more pictures here, just showing the explosion and the aftermath of it. Let's see what Cornel West says. I mean, we've had critique for Cornel West and his perspective on this particular issue. But let's read what he says here. This is carnage and nothing short of a war crime. Congress must pass a resolution, write a strongly written letter, calling on Israel to cease and desist targeting civilians and children immediately. Did you catch what he said? He didn't say cease fire. He says cease and desist targeting civilians. Continue the other stuff against Hamas, I guess. There is no moral high ground associated with targeting hospitals and refugees fleeing war zones. Just milquetoast, who he is. That's who Cornel West is. That was as milquetoast as you can get. So more news on Iranian president, and this is from friend of the show, Friarella Isabel, and she was just on the show last week. Breaking, this Iranian foreign minister, no, I'm sorry, this is the foreign minister, not the president, arrived in Saudi Arabia in little over an hour ago. This is after the Baptist hospital massacre. He had tweeted, after the terrible crime of the Zionist regime and bombing and massacre of more than 1,000 innocent women and children in a hospital, the time has come for the global unity of humanity against this fake regime, more hated than ISIS, and it's still killing machine. Time is over. And you see him here, and this is the tweet that he tweeted out. You see him getting off the plane there. So let's continue with some other receipts here. This is a lot. This is another bombing here. Israel just bombed a school run by the UN in the middle of a refugee camp. At least 6 people are dead and dozens are injured. And then there's a receipt showing that. Now we're to the doctors' hospital press conference. So doctors from the Baptist hospital in Gaza hold a press conference amongst the bodies of those slaughtered in the Israeli strike. The most surreal zoom out I ever seen. So let's put this up. It's under a minute long. I don't think it's of course it's not in English, and I don't think it's translated, but let's see.
لأقول لهم وللعالم أجمع اليوم
Zoom out.
هذا العدو الذي يهدد هذه المستشفيات تحت سمع العالم وبصره ولا يحرك العالم ساكنا ولا يتخذ إجراءات رادعة ولا يتخذ
This is why they cut off electricity.
هذا العدو فإنما كان يتلقى العدو
so that all the Palestinians can video record this and get this out to the world.
وقد أتم هذا الأمر في هذا اليوم في هذه المجزرة الوحشية التي قل أن نسمع بمثيلها في العالم الحاضر وإنما نسمع عنها في تلك العقود.
Okay, and you see the picture. The cradle, a barbaric massacre. Palestinian health officials have confirmed at least 500 people were killed by Israeli bombings of the Baptist hospital in Gaza, all of them civilians. Here's another one from Ellen. media were falling over themselves to print the 40 babies beheading story, but now that Israel commits a war crime, it's Palestinian says, and this is the point I was saying earlier. They didn't say no, Israel says. They said 40 babies beheaded with very flimsy sourcing, and it fell apart. They have tons of evidence here, and it just says Palestinian says this happened. And you see that headline here on the New York Times. Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospital. Palestinians say. And then Dr. Jill Stein, arguing today's slaughter of Palestinians is justified by last week's slaughter of Israelis, affirms Hamas logic that the slaughter of Israelis was justified by the murderous occupation. Such gruesome logic has no endpoint and will take us to the nuclear brink. That's Dr. Jill Stein. And then you have IDX spokesperson. Israel did not strike the hospital. The explosion resulted from an errant rocket launched at Israel by Islamic Jihad. Now, let's play this one here. This is Israel.
I want to give you an announcement of the event that occurred in the hospital in Gaza. I can confirm that an analysis of the IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the Al-Hali Al-Ma'adi hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. I repeat, this is the responsibility of Islamic Jihad that killed innocents in the hospital in Gaza. I want to give you an announcement of the event that occurred in the hospital in Gaza. I can confirm that an analysis of the IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists.
Oh yeah, I know it's
in
looping.
Gaza,
I'm just listening
passing
to it
in close
closely.
proximity to the Al-Hali Al-Ma'adi hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. I repeat, this is the responsibility of Islamic Jihad that killed innocents in the hospital in Gaza.
All right.
I want to give you an announcement of the event that occurred in the hospital in
I don't need to even. I was trying to listen to see what points I need to take apart. I feel like that is an obvious made up lie. I don't even need to do anything with that. Now listen to this guy here, Caitlin Jostone. I played her article, her video, her audio article on this very thing that I'm about to show you here. But I'm going to read this first. Breaking: MSNBC reporter confirms Israel bombed the Baptist hospital and caused the massacre. He showed several incidents that the IDF Israelis have done acts, then deny their involvement. Expect NBC to backtrack. So let's listen. This is on MSNBC.
They do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike in the way that Israeli high explosives, especially these bunker buster bombs that are used to target these Hamas tunnels under Gaza City, do have the potential to kill hundreds of people. And we should say finally that there are instances in the past where the Israeli military has said things in the immediate aftermath of an incident that have turned out not to be true in the long run. And the one example I'll give you is that when the Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was killed in the occupied West Bank, the Israeli military initially said that she was killed by Palestinian gunmen, and it was only months and months later that they admitted that it was likely an Israeli soldier who fired the fatal shot. So this is an absolutely classic fog of war situation, and we should be really clear. NBC News is not able to get into Gaza right now. The Israeli border is sealed. The Egyptian border is sealed. Our teams are not able to get there and to verify this directly. We should also say that the Israeli military at this point is not providing any evidence to back up its claims that this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. They are citing intelligence that they have not yet made public. We should also say that this kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets. These rockets are dangerous, they are deadly. They do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike.
Wow. They do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike. But they're going to come out with their talking points anyway, regardless of the science of this, the physics of this. They're just saying, who cares? Physics, midgets. This is what we say happened. Regardless of physics, this is what we say happened. Believe it or not. That's essentially what they're saying. Let's continue here. We played the Dan video, which is a classic here. We played that one. Now here's a better shot of this video. Let me play it again. The other one's kind of unclear. This is a better, clearer version. I meant to delete the other one. I forgot not to do that. I saved this one. So let's listen to it again. It's a clearer version.
This is an absolutely classic fog of war situation, and we should be really clear. NBC News is not able to get into Gaza right now. The Israeli border is sealed. The Egyptian border is sealed. Our teams are not able to get there and to verify this directly. We should also say that the Israeli military at this point is not providing any evidence to back up its claims that this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. They are citing intelligence that they have not yet made public. We should also say that this kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets. These rockets are dangerous, they are deadly. They do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike. In the way, this is an absolutely classic.
So yeah, that's a he won't be having that job soon. He won't be having that job soon for long, I should say. Man. Here goes one. Russia's President Putin compared Israel's siege of Gaza to Nazi Germany's siege of Leningrad. China's foreign minister declared that Israel must stop collective punishment of the people of Gaza. China and Russia are calling for an immediate ceasefire, and that's from The Guardian. I don't think I'm going to get to the article there. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, Rashida Tlaib. Now I'm gonna talk about her tweet in a different segment, so I'll just leave that there. The New York Times airbrushed their original hospital massacre headline to fit the new party line. I had the original open in my browser, so I saved it. So let's look. Israeli airstrike hits Gaza hospital, killing 500. Palestinian Health Ministry says. Now let's see what they changed it to. Israeli and Palestinian blame each other for blast at Gaza hospital that killed hundreds. You see? Just shameful. So when you ask, how was people just silent during slavery? You're seeing it now. The excuse making. You're seeing it now. Because I asked the same question about what's happening to Palestinian people. And of course, this is the story. Jordan cancels Biden summit after hundreds killed in Gaza hospital blast. U.S. president will only visit Israel as Jordan says summit will be held at time when parties could agree to end the war and massacre against Palestinians. So no meeting until that is fixed. Okay, so no, that's not for now. Israeli lies are falling apart. Let's listen to this one here. This is from Nick.
Tweeted that Israel did the hit, thinking that there is around this hospital a base for Hamas, and then he deleted that tweet. We have a copy of that tweet, and Talal can share with you that tweet. Now they change the story to try to blame the Palestinians. It is a lie, and the Israeli spokesperson of the army, about a week ago, made a statement in which he said, evacuate the hospitals are target, and in fact, they hit one hospital a week ago. So their intentions is evacuate or hospitals will be hit, and they are responsible for that crime, and they cannot fabricate stories to deal with it. Tweeted that Israel did the hit.
Wow. Falling apart. And that's another story. So, all right. I am going to get into another story, but it's still, on point or on target with Israel. And that is this story here. I will go all the way to I'm looking for mine. Yeah, let's do this other headline over here. So this is our next story. So we're still on Israel, but we're going to cover a different part of it. But before I do that, let's go through some of the super chats because they're related to the Israeli story. So you have the upcoming story on the screen, and scrolling down the bottom, we're still in the same segment. So let me now go through the super chats because they have comments and questions on this topic. Is Abiding 71. Thank you for the super sticker. And let's go to this one. I don't know. This one is not on topic, but let me start from the bottom. That way it'll be more that are on topic. Thanks, CJ. You deserve way more. Keep dropping truth. And that's super seamstress sewing show. Thank you for the super chat. This one here from Tiger Dragoon. Thank you for this super chat. Zionist logic, all those kids are just sleeper agents of Hamas. We are helping. Also, Zionist logic. Oh my God, how could Hamas attack us after we help them? Question mark. All right. Sorry, keep getting a pop-up in the background here. Let's go to the next one. This one here from Lori. Yeah, the Russians blew up their own pipeline and Palestinians blew up their own hospital. Nothing to observe for U.S. propagandists, murderers. That's on point. Thank you, Lori, for your super chat. And then we got a new member, Fancy Palooza. Fancy Palooza, new member. Welcome. Thank you for being a brand new member to our RBN community. And here's another comment. Zionists and religious zealots of Israel have learned well from the history of Nazi Germany. They managed the mainstream genocide. Adolf would be proud of his former victims now becoming his acolytes. Great comment. Thank you for that comment. And here, I'm sorry, super chat. That was also from Tiger Dragon. Here's another brand new member. I think that's Falconasaur. Brand new member. Welcome to the RBN community. This one. The West is bending itself into a pretzel to defend and whitewash Hunkla in the Canadian Canadian Parliament and Azov in Ukraine. But if you criticize Israel's blatant crimes, you're an anti-Semite. Spot on. Thank you for the super chat, Mark P. SKE. I wonder where that is. I always forget where that is. This is a super sticker. Thank you, Sean, for your super sticker. It's another comment here Thank you for your super chat here, John. The U.S. ruling elite and PMCs have to side with Israel against Palestine to avoid recognizing the ongoing settler colonialism of the U.S. That is a great point. Thank you again, John. And this was an earlier thing we were watching from Chima. Thank you for this super chat. I'm sorry, but this chick is racist. Walter Wright, thank you for super chat. Americans living in Colombia here. Did you see the president of Colombia tell the Israeli diplomat to get the fuck out of here? Colombia does not support genocide. And Walter, I did see that. I shouted it out yesterday in the closing parts of the show. Was it yesterday? Yeah, in the closing parts of the show when I scrolled through like my feed and I just show different things. That was one of them that was in the feed. So yes, we did. And now we're back at where we were with our other two members there. All right, so now let's get into this story with AOC. Man, so I got 30 more minutes here because I need to. Uh-oh. All right. That's the wife telling me something. We'll see. We'll see if I have some news for you guys. Ariel C. So, all right. So let's pivot to this story here. I put up the new banner. I'm going to not monetize this. We're at 481 likes, and that is a fantastic number. Thank you for that. The goal is 625. We have had 1,700 people make their way through here at a certain point or another. Man, I keep getting these pop-ups, and I think it's because of what I'm talking about. Yeah. Keep getting a ton of pop-ups in the background. You can't see, thankfully, but I can. And let me throw this up. Here go those numbers. So 481 likes. The goal is 625. 1,700 people have come through at some point, and we've had a peak number of 620 people watching all at one time. And here is the Substack. If you want to join our Substack, when Nick goes, Nick and Night tonight, and he's gonna have the reporter Wyatt Reed on. So if you want to see that in any future live stream that we announce or any clips that we post, you can get on our Substack and you get notifications sent to your email for that. The other thing is become a Patreon member. We got tiers, one tier for each member. So I think there's 5 tiers, and then you can create your own tier for as low as $2, I think is the lowest you can do for a tier. So if you're able to contribute and support, please do. And then I do have I know a lot of you have been noticing my laptop issue. So I am in the background running a fundraiser, a CJ laptop and equipment fundraiser. So that's scrolling at the bottom. If you're able to contribute, please do. All right. Now, after all of those announcements, let's get back into the story. And you can start here, Aaron. AOC says she would vote to fund Israel's Iron Dome now, but she has concerns. The representative also said discussing support for Israeli defense systems at this time is absolutely legitimate. This is coming from the NATO left, and I'm going to bring up that article in just a moment. But let's get to the video, because there's video that accompanies this. She was on CNN with Abby Phillips. How dare I mix the two? But let's listen to this. This has gone viral.
A couple of years ago, there was a vote in Congress for funding for the Iron Dome, and you very publicly were torn, even emotional about your vote, which ultimately was present. You put out a statement saying that you opposed Iron Dome funding. I wonder, given everything that we've seen in this last week, the Iron Dome has essentially intercepted thousands of rockets from Hamas. Do you believe now that that funding is essential? Would you vote for it today?
And to be clear, at that time, I had voted present on the Iron Dome funding because of what we had seen previously that year in terms of Netanyahu's decisions, which also resulted in the bombing of several buildings that contain media agencies, civilian targets. However, I do think that in this present moment, when we discuss support for Israeli defense systems, that is absolutely legitimate. I think it is absolutely something that whose support we can.
So you would vote yes today?
You see how she's stuttering. She knows this is terrible. She knows. That's why she's stuttering. So let's see if we can listen to the word salad here.
The bombing of several buildings that contain media agencies, civilian targets. However, I do think that in this present moment, when we discuss support for Israeli defense systems, that is absolutely legitimate. I think it is absolutely something that whose support we can.
So you would vote yes today if it came to the United States Congress, additional funding for the Iron Dome?
I think if it was explicitly around that, I have concerns about white phosphorus. I have concerns about the respect for about human rights and ensuring that we have humanitarian aid going through. But on the sole principle of Iron Dome and defense, I absolutely think there's an openness for sure.
I want to get you.
How many of you guys who voted for her and supported her and donated to her, how many of you wanted her to do this when you were donating and helping her get elected? Y'all was like, this is what we want her to do. Advocate for the Iron Dome. Let's listen to some reaction. So here is Manolo de Los Santos. AOC didn't hesitate to fucking pop-ups back here. They don't want me covering the story. AOC didn't hesitate to express her support for additional funding for Israel's defense, and that's in quotes, asserting that it's legitimate. That same Israeli defense just bombed a hospital in Gaza, killing more than 500 people. U.S. politicians have blood on their hands, and the people who advocate for them do too. Sam Cedar, TYT, and the whole bunch. Rational National, Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball. I'm going to get to that video in just a second here. Here is Eric London. He's a writer for the World Socialist website. And he says, within hours of Israelis striking a hospital and killing at least 500 people, AOC says she would have voted yes to give $1 billion to Israeli military if vote were held today. I'm sure the dead children of Gaza were very grateful that she still has a humanitarian concern. And that is a great, great point. What is your humanitarian concern? What does that do? What is that worth, really? What is that worth? Let's continue. I'm going to get more reaction, but I do want to get to, I'm going to bring that story up. And another one in just a second. Hold on a second. Yeah. And also this I want to show. I think I want to go to this first. Yeah, I think I want to go to this first. So let's go to this part first. Here's her crying because of her vote. Actually, this is her. What she knows was terrible. This is her trying to gain sympathy. for a vote she knows is terrible. So again, this is several years ago, famous vote where she voted. I believe she voted. I can't remember. Did she vote no or present or something like that? She voted present on it and pulled off this whole theater on the House floor that she was so emotional because it was such a terrible vote and she felt bad or something like that. Here is that video. Let's take a jog down memory lane.
Therefore, the House of this lawsuit will vote nay. House Resolution 483 amendments. Lawsuit will vote nay.
So I'm going to try to read as fast because it's good to read what they're saying on the screen. U.S. lawmakers, actually, let me see. I'm going to go back and silence in it. Let me just try to read it as fast as I can. AOC received backlash after she appeared to cry on the House floor after voting to give $1 billion to Israel to restore its Iron Dome missile intercept system. AOC had apparently changed her vote from no to present at the last minute. As the House passed a bill for additional funding by an overwhelming 420 to 9, AOC had earlier led an attempt by the squad to withhold military funding to aid, and some people on social media slammed her for shedding crocodile tears. Despicable. But we're supposed to feel sorry for her now, but she's now has completely made a U-turn and said, "Oh no, I don't feel sorry no more. That was a complete mistake." Let's bring up this, and I want to bring up this article too. But let me, actually, yeah, let's do it now instead of going from here. Let's bring up the article instead of just reading a snippet. Let me bring up the full article so that I can read part of it. Here. This comes from the leftvoice.org. House votes $1 billion for Israeli war machine without opposition from AOC. Last night, with the help of DOC endorsed Representative Jamal Bowman and AOC, the House of Representatives approved $1 billion in funding for Israeli Iron Dome missile interceptor. And there's her bullshit. Last night, the House of Representatives approved $1 billion in new funding for Israeli Iron Dome missile interceptors. That's another $1 billion for Israeli military, which continues to level Palestinian cities and murder children. The final vote in the House was 420 to 9, with 2 people voting present, notably Jamal Bowman, a DSA endorsed representative from New York, voted yes, and AOC changed her vote from no to present. 1 Republican voted against the measure. It's clear that support for apartheid and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians is bipartisan. This vote came from the House of Representatives vote. This vote comes from after the House of Representatives voted 316 to 113 for a $740 billion annual defense bill, which was $24 billion more than President Biden had even requested. The Iron Dome funding initially seemed to be in danger as members of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party threatened to tank the bill. It was attached to over increased funding for Israeli army. However, only a day after the provision for military aid to Israel was taken out, it was put back on the floor as a standalone bill. It was later revealed that Yair Lapid, Israel's foreign minister of affairs, called the U.S. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer to demand that the funding be pushed through. Hoyer explained that the progressive opposition to the bill was merely a technical delay. This is the best we have. Backtracking, kowtowing to Israeli lobby, and now coming out. There's headlines even saying that AOC is saying, let me see. AOC is saying, and I'll go here. AOC is saying, AOC Iron Dome. I think I saw a headline where she's apologizing. Oh, no. Maybe it was an old headline. Not that one. Let's pop up again. Let's go past 24 hours, if anything. So this is the one, the headline I just showed you. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, wow. You see Compton J. That's showing my post. Some more headlines. This is another one. AOC says, it is a typo, he will vote to fund Israel's Iron Dome. Doesn't look like any other articles are out. So, all right. So let's get back to Twitter, and I think I might have one more receipt, and then we got maybe one more short story before we get out of here. Let's go back to here. Go here. That's the one I just covered. That's the video I just covered. Oh, actually, maybe I have covered all of them. And I will just read you a snippet from this article here. This is AOC says he, when it should say she, will vote to fund Israel's Iron Dome, but worries. Now, Rep AOC said Monday she would vote yes to funding Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system if it comes down to it, and is concerned about where the funding will be spent. AOC told CNN's Abby Phillips, and that's just the video that I showed. Just give you another headline. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Although I actually no, we're not gonna end it there. Actually, let me see one more thing here. One more thing here before I close out this story. Let's see if there's any news that has dropped that has updated this story or not. We will remember, and this is from Blue Moon, that's Lucy, aka Lucy. We will remember traitors on both left and right who used the most pathetic ploys of identity politics to get elected and then voted present or voted for Iron Dome and funding of genocide of both Muslim and Christian Palestinians. Left, Richie Torres, right, AOC. And this is a fitting way to end this segment because Blue Moon lives in that district of AOC and Richie Torres. So shout out, I'm sorry, AOC, not Richie Torres. So shout out to Blue Moon, aka Lucy. And we closed that one there. And now let's get to, we got that one. Maybe we'll go to this one. We'll go to a quick story here. And let's go out. Let's go to this story with Kim Iversen now. And where is it? Right here. Dave Rubin versus Kim Iversen. And I'm going to go here and play and show. I'm going to show here. Actually, let's start here. We're going to dig down to his. Oops, didn't. Let's see. 1 second, everybody. That's going to go off the screen. I'm having issue with pop-ups on my screen here. This computer is in terrible condition. All right, so let's now see if I can get to this without a problem. The other one was kind of kicking me out here. And we're going to start with Dave Rubin. Okay, so let's start here. Let's go to this main one. Now I can go here. That's too small for me to read. So hopefully I can read it from here. So this is where we're going to start. So Aaron, you can start the segment here. Dave Rubin targets Kim Iversen over Palestinian support. And let's start here with this, what she put up. And this is Kim Iversen, what she wrote that kind of started this whole thing. My honest guess is many Israelis would immigrate out, many back to the nation they or their parents immigrated in from Europe, Russia, US, etc. The others who choose to stay will live just fine. Arabs, Jews, and Christians have lived on the land for centuries together. Palestinian Muslims are more liberal than some other Muslim majority nations, and a large chunk of Palestinians in control of the government are Christian. Some laws will change to be more conservative, but by and large, they won't because of the diversity within the Palestinian population. Muslims will certainly take back control of the holy sites, but will allow Jews and Christians to continue to worship. After all, it's the Muslims who maintain the peace between Christians who fight over Christ's historical sites. The nation will no longer be called Israel. They will change it back, either back to Palestine or more likely to a new name that consists the world of Palestine Jews, Palestine. Jews will be the minority along with Christians. She goes on to say, but they will exist without issue. Palestinians are highly tolerant. They recognize that the land is scarce for all three Abrahamic religions, and they have for centuries helped protect the sites from all religions. If Palestinians are in charge, they won't be nearly as oppressive since they aren't guided by some ethos of creating an ethno state. It won't be as liberal or free. There's no doubt about that, but it also won't be horrible. So Kim Iversen put out this statement, and this guy reacted. The state of Israel exists so that idiots like this will never decide on the fate of the Jewish people. 4,000 likes, 4,300 likes. Dave Rubin picks up on this. Dave Rubin, and if you don't know, Dave Rubin is a conservative spinoff of the TYT network. I don't know much about him other than that. Don't know much about him. I just know he's conservative. She is, and he's referring to Kim Iversen, she is a complete fucking idiot, not 99% fucking idiot, total and complete fucking idiot, like AOC level fucking idiot. That is what Dave Rubin had to say about it. And he continues, everything related to tolerance and respect is what Israel has done related to holy sites and coexistence. It was all the reverse before Israel. Holy fuck, these people are retards. That's Dave Rubin. So I'll go back because you'll see that Kim responds down here. I wasn't stating what I want. I was answering the question of what I think would honestly happen under one state solution. You can disagree. If so, state why you disagree, like a functional adult who supports an exchange of ideas. And of course, he doesn't respond to that. But she does have more response, and let's go to that now. And she responds more right here. And of course, she ratios him. like I said, he had 4,300 likes here, and you can see hers. She's sitting at 5,700, about to hit 5,800. This is what her response to Dave Rubin. Oh, shoot, I'm looking at the clock, so let's do this. Her response goes like this: when the only argument they have is you're an idiot or you're an anti-Semite, rather than engage in a productive discussion, they've lost. I've witnessed perfectly rational people lose their ability to critically think this past week, the same way I watch intelligent people lose all faculties during the pandemic. Dave Rubin and others have proven they can't counter with facts, only emotion, and it's unfortunate to witness. I don't have a dog in the Israel-Palestinian fight. I'm not Jewish nor Arab, and I have no affinity for the Holy Site or any book of Revelation. I'm simply looking at the conflict and making assessments based on what I view the facts to be. You can disagree. If so, argue your point. That's how a healthy, functioning society should work. And that is Kim Iversen. And I think she deserves the last word on that. And I'll close there. Let's see what I missed here. I covered that. I covered that. I covered that. I covered that. I think I covered everything that I said I would cover in the description. But there was another story, and maybe you glanced over it when I passed by it a couple of times. This one right here, BJG, that's Briahna Joy Gray smear piece, because there is a smear piece out on her. I covered that. I covered that. I covered that. And I also wanted to cover the NATO left. Maybe I'll do that later on, because I'm going to have to get going in just a few minutes here. And then I'll show you this protest here. So this is a protest. I'll just show you the video. Jose Vega, the infamous protester. My friend Russell, and Russell from the show, the Post-Duopoly show. He's part of Due Dissonance. This is Russell. And I confronted neocon Rachel Maddow out of her book reading. I was dragged out on the ground for speaking the truth about her being a warmonger and the truth about ethnic cleansing in Gaza by the Israelis and how she's getting it wrong, and he gets dragged out. Now, I'm going to play it without sound intentionally, but you can see what happens with Rachel Maddow right here. And then he gets dragged out. Now, he's wearing a mic, so when you do see this video, I think Nick might cover it tonight. Yeah, I think Nick might cover it tonight. So if you see this video with the sound, you can hear him clearly. These people who think they're blocking him, they're not. He's gotten it down, and it's not working. He has his own mic, so you yelling over him doesn't do anything. But this man is doing God's work by putting his body on the line like this. And the fact that he seems to be kind of a stockier, bigger kind of guy, you can't just have some regular people. See how these are big dudes. All those dudes are at least 275 each. So no skinny little guy is gonna take him out. So it takes some big dudes to take him out. But you see him being taken out right there. So that's the Rachel Maddow protest. That's a segment I was gonna plan to do, but I just didn't have time to do. And then there's a Ben Shapiro where he's getting called out for his Zionist views. Won't get to that either. Actually, let me show you the other one. This one here, BJG smear piece. And it's the Daily Beast. So someone's trying to get me fired from the Hill by leaking to the Daily Beast. I've been incredibly proud of my coverage of Israel-Palestine on the Hill, and I'm glad to have an opportunity to represent a view that is too frequently erased from corporate news. And this is the headline right here. Israeli-Hamas conflict spills over into newsroom shouting match. And here's some of what is reported. Several Hill reporters expressed concern over Gray's reckless commentary, worrying that her status as co-host of their morning show would make their job talking to lawmakers in Washington harder, meaning they won't want to come on the show because of this supposed radical view of saying, look, this is genocide. This is oppression. This is colonial project. Now, I don't know if she's going that far in her rhetoric, but, quote, where is our leadership? Clearly, no one from Nexstar, that's the owner of the Rising, is paying attention, one source said. There is no way they would be okay with this. They're saying the owners would be okay with Briahna Joy Gray's coverage. Like what you're reading, I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to go there. But that is a snippet from that, and that's from this article on the Daily Beast. Israel-Hamas conflict spills over into the newsroom, and she says she's getting targeted. Glenn Greenwald says the system and climate of censorship and cancellation built, cultivated, and championed over the last 7 years by establishment media and their allies in the government is now being weaponized against Israel critics, urging their firing, deplatforming, and other punishment, which is terrifying, I must say. So Glenn Greenwald, let's see if there's any, he continues. So actually, I guess this is a segment. I guess we can call this a segment. I'll take this off. Put this up here since I didn't have it ready. And let's read this part too. There's an obvious attempt to rejuvenate and reimpose the repressive post 9/11 climate in the U.S. Netanyahu is reciting Bush fumes axis of evil. IDF says either you stand with Israel or with the terrorists. Barry Weiss held up Condoleezza Rice as a model we should follow. And this is what you put up. You either stand with Israel or stand with the terrorists. That's what they tweeted out. And then this is Barry Weiss. Let's list. Oh, no, this is not a video. Just showing you. He continues on. The central tactic after 9/11 was to accuse anyone questioning the Bush-Cheney war on terror of being pro-terrorist or an Al-Qaeda on Al-Qaeda's side. Now, if you do that regarding Israel and the U.S. response, it means you're pro-Hamas, even if you denounce Saturday's massacre. This is a foreign war involving a foreign country. The Biden White House has made it clear it intends to heavily involve itself in this war. American journalists, all citizens, have the right and duty to question that war policy without being branded pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic. And that is spot on defense of Bree by Glenn Greenwald. And I'll just say this and get out of here. Glenn Greenwald defends Briahna. Let's just do that. All right. And you can call this segment Aaron, and get this segment out as quickly as you can. So Glenn Greenwald defends Briahna Joy Gray. And you can put both of them on the graphic. Put Glenn, put Bree on the graphic. And these are sort of my thoughts on this. So the someone leaked to the Daily Beast that there's some conflict in the newsroom about Briahna Joy Gray's coverage. Understand, Briahna Joy Gray is on a corporate network that's corporate. They have corporate donors, corporate supporters. And the people in the newsroom, I guess the argument is The owners would not like this if they knew what was going on with Briahna Joy Gray's coverage. And I wouldn't even say Briahna Joy Gray's coverage has been the most radical. It hasn't been like RBN's kind of coverage, but it has given ear and voice to the Palestinian struggle. It has used terms like apartheid, used terms like genocide, genocidal in her coverage. And I guess the corporate entities are having their hair on fire. Again, losing the ruling class narrative, they understand that. So this attack on Briahna Joy Gray and smear going after her livelihood is to go after that. So understand, when it comes to war and Israel and pharmaceuticals, these motherfuckers ain't playing at all. They're not playing. Oh, you got an opinion outside of what we said is approved? We're going to come after you. And they're coming after Bree. And this is not the first time they're sort of coming after Bree, but this seems to be a lot more direct, like a direct lineage to try to get her out. So go check out this article on the Daily Beast. Israel Hamas conflict spills over into newsroom shouting match. If there is an opportunity to comment, please lend your voice for Briahna Joy Gray and advocate for her in the comments. We must get the word out. She's not alone. And make sure you do that. And she also says, I'm glad to say the Rising team is terrific and stands behind our work. And I think that's a good way to kind of end this segment with her words, and we'll end it there. I'll read the last few super chats, and then I got to literally run out the door to get my daughter. She has another minimum day because they have these teacher conferences. So let's start from the bottom here. Maybe AOC wants the Iron Dome funding because she thinks it blocks the sun. These DSA types are a joke. DSA LA supports LAPD because they are unionized workers. That is a fucking joke. Sam, thank you for the super chat. This is a super sticker from Frank Sosa. Thank you for that. This one here, another super chat from Tiger. AOC will argue fiercely to fund genocidal Israel while Flint and East Palestine are toxic waste dumps. Hawaiians only have $700 for losing their homes, and people in her own district are being evicted. Love my audience. Love our audience, I should say. Based super chat there. Thank you. Tiger, I believe that. Yeah, Tiger. This one here, Buster Peak. Assad, quote, Assad bombed his own people too, end quote. They think we're dumb. Yeah, these propaganda stories that up until this point, more people have been following, but absolutely with the addition of YouTubers, the narrative they've just lost, and they're definitely afraid. Now, I'm going to be getting out of here. I want to thank everybody that has watched. So it looks like the only real big story, actually, no, that was it. I just covered it. The BJ smear story I was going to say is the one I really wanted to make sure I covered, but I didn't get to. The NATO left story, I can always cover how they're just how they're POSs when it comes to this. They're trying to play both sides. But I squeezed in that story, BJG smear. Aaron, try to get that out for as soon as possible. I'm not going to say tomorrow, as soon as possible, because I don't know when you're going to be watching this. Other than that, I'm going to be getting out of here. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button on your way out. Let me see if there's anything I can play on the way out here. If I have the time. Let's see if I have the time. If this refreshes fast enough. That's not long enough. I need something longer. That's Joe Biden meeting with Netanyahu. They're almost kissing there. I guess I can end here. It's not long, but let's. Never mind. Let's not end with anything. Anyway, I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna go ahead and take off. Thank you for watching. make sure you hit that like button on your way out. And look for the Nick at Night tonight, covering some of the other stories. And I'm sure you'll have some updates on the Israel bombing hospital story. So thank you for watching. And we are, let's see. Yeah, I don't have anything I can play. Nothing quick. All right, we are go.